Hello and welcome back to the Rockin' Blizzard Arena here in Burbank, California. We just saw MVP Black claim their seat for BlizzCon at the Anaheim Convention Center next weekend. We got our losers matchup here in Group A about to take place. That's Tempo Storm versus Deadlykittens. And now, taking the reins at the analyst desk, you know her, you love her, the powerhouse of the Nexus, JC Gillyweed Gluck.
That's right. Thank you, Kevin. And that is correct. I've taken over. Look at me. I'm the desk host now. How's it going, guys? How's it going, Jayhow?
I don't know, but you actually commanded that, and we all looked. That's so embarrassing. Like, oh no! I looked over at everyone else. I'm like, God, she just got us like debated so
she
hard.
Can get bossy, believe me.
Yeah, get used to it. Guys, we're here. It's day one of opening week. I'm so stoked to be up here. We're going to give Caleris a chance to cast, believe with Dreadnought. And we are going to talk about the first elimination match of the whole event. It's Tempo Storm. It's Deadlykitten. What are your thoughts?
It's going to be really interesting because right now, when we looked at the group, everybody expected to see, okay, how does Tempo Storm measure up against China? So far, it was not really the performance they were hoping for. And now, of course, everybody is saying, well, let's see if Tempo Storm can beat the Deadlykittens, because that could be a major upset right now for one of the major regions, as all of a sudden the Kittens come out swinging.
Yeah, really, Tempo Storm, through this entire international event, they've been at every single one, and yet they have only been able to defeat Red Canids. Technically, they did Soul Torturers 2 at the midseason brawl when you consider the tiebreaker, but let's take a look at the bracket so far. Trixler, are you surprised at all that we see MVP Black get out without losing a game?
I don't think anyone is. MVP Black coming into this tournament, there was whispers of they are back and they are scary, and they showed why here. 4-0 in their first two matches. They'll be advancing to next weekend, so very excited to see that. I was actually more impressed to see how great CE is looking. Even in their losses against MVP Black, they're looking wonderful, even with the sub.
That was the story backstage. We're all like, wow, like CE is staying with them. Kevin's like, I got some questions to ask him. Like, ask him, like, did they expect CE to come out, and be as strong as they were? I mean, did MVP Black look good? Yeah, of course. Sure. But I think everybody might have expected more dominance. And I think that's more of the testament of CE as opposed to MVP Black. They look strong, they look great, but CE, I think, actually did a pretty good job holding with them.
Yeah, CE definitely looks to be the team who will probably be going out along with MVP Black unless we see this next team really fire up and come online. Now, looking at Deadlykittens, we know that they have a different roster than the Deadlykittens we have known before. Jayhow, you're friends with these guys. Yeah. Has communication been an issue at all for them since they are speaking in a few different languages?
It has, and noticeably so. And they've told us before that they just kind of expect Jen to basically follow the leader at that point.
Yeah, they mentioned that he pings. He's like, I have clans
He literally barely speaks any English, and at times, you could overhear some of the communications. And one of the players asked me, he's like, are they speaking multiple language? I'm like, yeah. So at times you'll have Confidence, who's the other Korean player. He'll speak in Korean towards his ally there, and then at the same time, the Filipino players, if they feel like there's a hasty call to be made, they speak in Tagalog, their mother tongue, and it's just like, so you have three different languages that can at times come out here. They make it work for their region, but on the bigger stage, obviously, it makes it a little bit more problematic.
That's my issue, is it does look like there is communication issues when you're watching this team. It almost seems like one person jumps the gun, and then everybody follows up afterwards, which is very scary when you're 1 to 2 seconds off in timings, especially against high-caliber play. Now, with that being said, with old Tempo Storm, that would be a type of style that could actually beat them. But we did just see in the last series that they were a little bit more forward with their aggression, so maybe it'll be a good matchup.
I'm actually a bit worried when it comes to the drafting and also the strategies that they oftentimes used. I watched a couple of the games, or quite a few that they had in their qualifier, and they admitted later on in interviews that we had that they didn't really feel in the right place at the time, but there were some fundamental problems in their drafting and the way that they approached certain maps where they just didn't realize strengths that their own draft had and weaknesses in the opponents. And I feel we could already see that to an extent, of course, against MVP Black earlier. Everybody here has been talking about Meridian, for example, and it was completely ignored by them. They didn't respect it at all. They had a very clear idea of what they are afraid of, but I really feel they hit the wrong mark there. So they're, for example, terrified about Malthael and banned him out several times. Meridian is something that they didn't respect whatsoever, and they got punished for it. And we only saw a very small sample size, but this is something where I'm interested to see, are they going to change the MO here now heading into the next match, or is it going to be something where they just stick with the idea that they currently have?
I will say this. When I was in Singapore, you talked about their poor drafting. They recognize it. Literally the very next morning,
so.
I'm logged in, we're preparing, we're ready to go. He whispers to me, he's like, our drafts were so bad yesterday. He literally just like came to me. I never said a word to him. That's just a pop-up whisper. There's the pink text. He's like, our drafts are bad. I'm like, okay, is it going to be better today? Yeah, they ended up winning and claiming their spot here at BlizzCon the opening week. But I think maybe the recognition, as you said, could potentially, but it's a very short turnaround today.
I was very happy when they said it in the interviews. Without being prompted, they immediately said, like, yes, our drafts in the qualifier were horrible. And I was just like, okay, cool, they know. So
But that becomes the question, right? They understand and they identify that they need to grow, but have they had the time and the room to actually grow as a team?
Exactly.
Well, let's switch over to their opponents now and talk about Tempo Storm. Deadlykittens themselves have not won a series at any international event they've been at this year, but Tempo Storm has also struggled a lot. Even when they are dominant within their region in North America, it just seems like something happens to them when they get on land. Did you feel like that was happening again here? Or do you, Trixler, you were even mentioning that you felt like changes were being made.
I talked to Caldor afterwards and he called me a bit of a Care Bear. Like, I feel like there has been progress here from what we've seen in the international event. I don't think we're seeing the confidence that we would normally get from them in the North America region when they're playing.
Fair.
But I'm seeing a movement, and that makes me happy.
To what extent, though?
Yeah, exactly. Like, is it
I wanted to be there. I wanted to hear what Caldor said, because I'm raising the same question here.
The one thing that I find funny is that you mentioned how they are really excelling in their own region, then they come to an offline event and they start losing games. The interesting part is they lose always against their own region. So
yeah, they've been eliminated every event by a North American
exactly,
team.
by NA. So they win online and offline, there seems just to be this blockade. And as you said, like, to what degree has that progress really been there? And I mean, I'm really disappointed by their performance overall. So I was hoping, when we're looking at North America, we're looking mostly at Roll20. They come in with a lot of confidence. They are the team that everybody says, okay, we're going to take this. Then Team Freedom. I wanted to see where Tempo Storm is right now, and currently I'm not convinced.
Well, it starts with the draft. So let's get started. For our first elimination match, we're looking at the Battleground pool for this best of 3. Tempo Storm banning Infernal Shrines, standard for them. Deadlykittens banning Braxis Holdout, and Deadlykittens has chosen to take us to Cursed Hollow.
If I were...
Or Tempo Storm. One of the teams has chosen to take us to Cursed Hollow.
That is an accurate assessment, Gilly. But this is a very interesting pick for me, because Tempo Storm, if there's one thing that we've ever said about them, is that they have a very slow and methodical pace. They never really push the pedal to the metal half the time. They don't know, they're never really aggressive. But what they do is they play these long style battlegrounds that they'll eventually just wear you down until they eventually win. And this is a map that I see Tempo Storm, this is basically them in a nutshell.
Tempo Storm is such an interesting team for me, because I have to admit that after the Western Clash, the way they performed, and as soon as they went out, I was just like, this team is done. This team is absolutely done. And then in the season, they come back, and it really impressed me how well they came together at the boot camp when they were saying, hey, we are going to fight for the playoffs, and we are going to make it to BlizzCon. And before all of that started, I said, there's no way. All of a sudden, they really show up. It's a completely different team. There's synergy again. There's aggression. They take opportunities. And I was really impressed. I really loved it. But I didn't see that in the first game they played today. If they can show that now, I think they will take this, but that's the one doubt I have.
One has to wonder if it's a mentality issue at this point. When going to an international event, I mean, 3 times in a row they have failed. This
Psyching
is the 4th
themselves
time
out.
here. Yeah, exactly. Are they getting to a point here where they don't have the momentum that they can get in their own region? And can they find a way to break through that? I think, luckily for them, the Deadlykittens might be a matchup that they can win here. So we got to see them break through now.
I want to give you one small tidbit before we get too deep into the draft, because I was talking to Deadlykittens, and they have a hero that
Ooh,
they've
insider
referred
info.
to.
Okay, here.
They have a hero.
But that's the thing, is like, I know who the hero is. I'm not gonna tell you who it is. But if it comes up, don't be surprised, because they literally refer to it as Weapon X. That is
Weapon
it's their
X.
code word for if it's the right moment. They
It's-
wanted to pick it. They wanted to pick it.
It's
It might
Nova.
happen.
It's good to know that they have a code name for Gazlo.
Well, here we go into game 1. This
Okay.
is a best of 3. This is the best of 3 for these teams, because the loser is out of this event.
I want to see what kind of priority Tempo Storm now has for Malthael, because it's a hero that in
It's
NA
always high for them.
Exactly, like overall, I would expect it. They changed it up already a little bit with Genji and Muradin here, which I actually like. But overall, it feels that North America, especially compared to other major regions, is currently prioritizing Malthael more than anyone else. By no means is he a bad hero, but for them it oftentimes was such a high priority that other regions and teams have now started to even ban it immediately against them.
I wonder now, with Genji being a high priority here for Tempo, Deadlykittens loves the double support. We have a big battleground. Maybe Brightwing becomes an early pickup. Yeah. We've seen a lot of strength from her, deals with Genji very well.
Brightwing is absolutely fantastic in a really good spot right now, to an extent where I personally ask myself how much Keely paid the development team to make that change happen for BlizzCon.
It's always
I
something.
plead the fifth.
Cador's always thinking about bribes and all these mysterious, like, conspiracies.
Because Brightwing has bribed
There's no way
Trixler.
they can enjoy Brightwing being played.
I have my conspiracy theorist in Dreadnought, you have yours in Caldor.
Oh my gosh, man. Some of the things this guy says in the car ride home. I just want to check out for the day.
I remember our car rides back in Taiwan. Trixler and I talked about Rexar and Artanis. I don't even know what you guys talk about.
You know that I can go that deep, too.
I
That's
know,
how far
right?
you can tell me. ETC and Sonya picked up strong front lines here for the Deadlykittens. They are intending to bring the fight to Tempo Storm.
Yeah, so we talk about Brightwing for a couple of reasons, as we are now having, of course, ETC and Sonya in. But just ETC and Sonya add another reason why Brightwing would be a good choice here. If you have Genji and you combine Brightwing with a double support composition, you can really, with Emerald Wind, create a lot of opportunities once that Genji makes the commitment. But right now, you also have her as a control tool against Sonya once that Whirlwind starts, or ETC. So I would really love either a ban on the side of the Deadlykittens against her, or a pickup on the side of Tempest Storm. I really feel that she would fit even better into the draft now with what we are having here.
I know the meta's sped up a lot, but still, with Uther still floating around, could that still be an option available for the Genji if they were to leave that up?
I think it's high probability.
Yeah. I'd rather ban that.
The biggest thing is
double support.
The double support thing. One of the biggest detriments to a Rhaegar on the backline is, like, no matter how much protection you have, you get a Genji, you get through the Rhaegar, he's burning Ancestral because he knows he's about to die, and then he's out of the fight. And generally you can get that early kill and then just start to roll from there.
You can definitely play with a double support on the side of Tempo Storm if you want to here. You already have with Muradin also another great engage, of course. So keep in mind, when we're looking at Genji and Muradin, with the old idea of Muradin, you would more so, you don't really expect him to be that guy that jumps way deep into your backline, but that's the change that we now are in because of the recent patch. 116 is hit. With Genji and Muradin, you can get massive commitments with super aggression into the backline, and no one is safe there. So that's one of the things that Tempo Storm could also spec in. Hyper mobility and try to just like completely drive the fight with momentum.
The further point about that is that if you do go in, you've got an ETC, you've got a Sonya, you need some type of cleanse, some type of protection at that point. You could even go Hand of Protection, plus you have the Divine Shield. So you have like that double form of protection to really enable that, plus the added armor once you hit that wave of light in there. So we'll see what their thoughts are as we're now through all of our bans.
On a banned out, that Brightwing and Uther are available. Brightwing Uther could still even work here, but you have to be a bit too careful. Maybe you're a bit all in on the idea of your Genji and Muradin being the main disruption for Tempo Storm.
There's definitely a lot of options that you have with what you can play in this case right now. So first of all, we talked about Brightwing a lot. We have Uther still with a combo with Dragon Blade, Divine Shield. But there's also, if you want to go into full mobility, you can, for example, still think about Tyrael, especially the Korean and the Chinese teams are looking heavily into into Tyrael play. But as you pointed out a bit earlier, on this map in particular, Tyrael is just super strong, and he opens up so much. So if you want to go for a heavy dive, that's another opportunity you have.
I think I agree with that, but with it being Tempo Storm, man, they haven't played Tyrael in forever, it feels like. The Muradin, Genji. Malthael or Dahaka was kind of the pickup here for Cattle, and Cattle's been favoring that Malthael so much lately that he moves straight into it.
I mean, they finally get Malthael. Finally, a game where he's not banned out against them.
Let's drop the beat here. I think Lucio, natural counter towards Malthael the minute that goes out, as well as Genji to really try and survive that burst. Once you can get through that initial burst, it will really help. NSJ, of course, going to be on the gray main per usual. Now, guys, with Tempo Storm, Brightwing is still available if they want to go that double. In the 3 of the 4 games after Western Clash, they had Genji in 3 of those. The other one was banned out first ban. Also, in all of their games, the last 5 games on record, they all had a global in some form or fashion, one of those being an Abathur at that point, but Abathur banned. So they have tendencies on this, and they've kind of got that. I think they can get that with the Brightwing, get that global, get that double support, but I don't know. I don't know how that fits them right now.
Could they run solo support here and just go for a range? I feel like they could pull it off, but it would still be quite difficult. We've seen so much double support from them and a majority of the teams, honestly.
To be honest, I really like what we're having on the side of the Deadlykittens now. If Lucio drops the Sound Barrier just in time when Malthael drops his own ult, it's going to be extremely difficult for Tempo Storm to get anything done with this setup here. So the tools that the Kittens have are amazing. If they use them right, Tempo Storm is going to be in trouble.
The scariest thing is that in game 1, or in our first series with MVP Black, we heard the beat getting dropped, and Muradin, as you alluded to, now a threat when he dives in. He hit the heavy impact, stalled out, dropping it. He interrupted the channel, and at that point, that fight really turned because they didn't have that. It goes on a 10-second cooldown.
Stop the beat.
It stopped the beat.
I mean, if you look at the draft that we have right now, we have basically what we talked about at the start when we saw the initial 2 picks on the side of Tempo Storm. We have Brightwing and Uther. So you have the Divine Shield for Genji, you have the commitment and the safety for him to go into the backline. And at the same time, Brightwing has not only the global available, we have good control against ETC and against Sonya. What I'm really worried about is outside of the Divine Shield Dragonblade, the kill potential for Tempo Storm, because I think that the Kittens have a great draft, and if they manage Malthael, then they should be in a spot where they can deal with them.
Gilly, I'm curious. What do you think here? Is this something that Tempo Storm can win?
This is something that Tempo Storm runs a lot. In fact, you guys were hypothesizing what was going to be paired a lot with the Genji. Definitely thought that would be Malthael to go with it. They like running that heavy melee style, putting them together, Tormented Souls as the setup, and then Dragonblade to come in and as the finisher. And for them, they like running out on this battleground. Sometimes they even bring in an Abathur. But because Lucio couldn't be banned out, because Lucio got through, I am just as concerned as you guys are about Sound Barrier and how effective that Tormented Souls is going to be, because Caterpillar struggled a lot with his Tormented Souls in the last series.
I want to see, because the priority target when you jump in as Muradin will be the Lucio. One thing that you can do, whether it's jumping in as Muradin or whether it's going to be Eing in as Genji, you come in, Emerald Win, splits. Because it hits, it counts as like that minor interrupt, that minor stun. You also have the heavy impact now, which is far earlier in the game, makes your team fighting at level 10 and beyond very threatening. I think that's going to be a high priority, choosing those opportunities. But timing and communication, as one of our key points that we talked about early, are going to be a very, very heavy emphasis, I think, this game.
Well, guys, our casters are ready. Greymane?
Yeah, I mean, Greymane is also going to be a huge threat. And it could be to an extent where if Muradin gets too aggressive, you can actually go away from go for the throat for once, drop into the bullet, and you have an ETC slide after Muradin jumps in, and you can try to burst him if he plays too aggressive. But Greymane in this setup, if he plays well, I think that's a huge threat to Tempo Storm.
Well, let's see how Greymane and everyone does in this elimination match. Let's head on over to our caster desk.
That's right, as Gilly mentions here, it's the most important series for these two teams going into their 2017 careers if they want to continue their hopes on in BlizzCon. Of course, Kyle is here with Dreadnought to bring you all the action from this series. And Dreadnought, I'm extremely excited to see how both of these teams are going to try and approach their last chance.
I completely agree. And here with the draft to Tempo Storm, I feel like the NOSS put it perfectly here. It does feel like it's going to be a tall tale, them sticking to their guns, sticking to what they know. And the question is really, is it enough to be able to even overcome an opponent from, you know, a non-league region like the Deadlykittens?
Very important. As we're getting into the game here in just a few moments' time to find out who's going to be able to keep themselves alive. And for Tempo Storm, they have not necessarily a lot of weight on their shoulders because North America seems to be well represented here in Roll20 and Team Freedom. But for Tempo Storm, they were the kings of North America for a long time. Has that time passed?
I think it has. And I feel like this series is really going to be the thing that locks it in, the nail in the coffin for Tempo Storm. But to kick it off, in the blue here, we have Deadlykittens with that Jinwoo on Rhaegar Confidence repping the Lucio. You know, we're going to have Enavir on the Sonya. Sonya is such a high impact hero throughout the meta and this tournament. And last we got NSJ on his Greymane. Oh, we got stronger on ETC. I can't count to 5. Caster math already nailing it.
All good. Onto the right-hand side. It's Tempo Storm. June going to be representing Uther. Fury will be on the Muradin. Next up, Chthonlok will be playing that Brightwing. And we have Assam on Genji, finally rounding things out. Caterpillar will be on the Malthael. And I thought that the Malthael for them was really the key to unlocking some of the previous games that we saw from them. Can that be a key here?
I would like to say the answer to that is yes. It has been a continuous go-to strategy for Tempo Storm throughout all of the North America Phase 2 Part 2. But it does feel like it's kind of lost its, you know, flavor a bit when it comes to the meta with the recent patches here, and it is a bit surprising to see Tempo Storm so locked in on that Malphite.
An attempt potentially up towards the top lane here, as Fury was already positioning himself with the Muradin, with Sam also lurking in the wings for confidence. Great scout out there to originally try and push that off of June.
Yeah, and June getting a lot of pressure there. He's going to go ahead and have to drop back. Fury joining in. Psalm, though, is getting punished quite heavily there by Jinwoo on that Rhaegar. Never can you look past the Rhaegar, one of the highest damage supports in the game. But I want to highlight, if you watch, actually, Fury missed a Dwarf Toss over the wall there in another situation where it seems like he's just not up to snuff here. He's struggling here at this international level.
I like the confidence is using his mobility along that wall to use the scouting technique for when Fury's potentially trying to dive in there and really put on some pressure, because he is the most mobile. He's the one that's going to get away out of those three.
Absolutely. Anytime you're on the Lucio, if you aren't afraid of the initiation, talking about one, we're going to have it up on top. Nice Stormbolt connected for Tempo Storm, but the double support is enough to keep everyone alive here.
And really a lot of the focus is on this top lane, right? Aside from the maybe Malthael Sonya, which could get a bit dicey from time to time if someone has a slight misplay, this is where our focus point is going to be for now. And as you can see, very patient plays with confidence, cycling around. Well, Muradin's constantly actually gone down towards mid now whilst Brightwing repositions.
Yeah, and this is because those Giants are about to come online. Malthael's looking to drop on back. Tempo Storm seems to be mirroring that kind of transition with Greymane and Rhaegar. Ultimately, up until we find the tribute spawning anywhere 215 and later on, we don't know who's going to gain the upper hand. No team has a major global, no team. Well, I guess Brightwing would give Tempo Storm a slight edge, but ultimately she doesn't push that hard to necessarily justify going a large advantage for Tempo.
The one attempt that you can try and get to equalize that on Deadlykittens is Lucio, but it's much slower.
Yeah.
It's fast. He's a fast guy.
Oh yeah, he's pretty quick.
Yeah, he's pretty quick, but not quick enough. Here comes the tribute to start things off. Not too bad for either team because we have the 3 in each position. This actually favors the push from Tempo Storm because they have the Giants down towards the bottom, or they did initially while this was moving forward.
But it does kind of provide an awkward 1v1 on bottom because ultimately Sonya can't push as effectively because her wave clear comes through her E, which is going to be interrupted by that polymorph there. Channel attempt for confidence. Stormbolt not going to quite land there for Fury, but it's enough to at least zone off the members of Deadlykittens off this tribute.
And Tempo Storm understands what they have to do. Delay this, deal with the Giants, which is just next door. It's right there. There goes the power attempt on towards confidence. A lot of damage going on towards him. Lucio manages to get away, though, with that totem in place as well to get some healing going, and they managed to survive the onslaught.
Yeah, they're doing a very good job here using that passive healing between the Lucio and the Rhaegar in the long run. Now Cattle trying to throw it out and deter them. I'm just questioning, is Deadlykittens going to have enough threat up here to ever draw that Brightwing aggro, or do they even care at this point in time?
Yeah, it's because overall, it depends if they want the tribute or not. If they really want to have to commit, Sam is constantly poking at the back. Malthael wisely has actually gone and soaked that mid lane and come back here. So I feel like Tempo Storm is slowly eking out the advantages in this position.
And Sonya's actually not that effective into the 1v1 as I took a little bit of a look down on there. So ultimately, this is totally fine for both teams to go head-to-head 4 versus 4 over that top tribute. Malthael getting some soak up on mid, but Genji with a nice little shuriken drop in there, stopping another channel here. Deadlykittens about 2 minutes deep on this tribute and unable to obtain it.
Absolutely, and with the 2 minutes that you quote there, like, this is a very tactical, slow-paced attempt at trying to keep themselves alive. These two teams know the severity of the situation.
Brightwing left on her own on bottom for a small moment. Psalm gonna dash on in to be able to get the interrupt, forcing the deflect. Now Fury drops the Dwarf Toss, gets the stun there. Polymorph coming right on line. Cattle, though, is caught out too far. Now that is gonna be first blood for Deadlykittens, and maybe not done yet, as Fury's has Dwarf Toss.
And for Tempo Storm, was that the greed of them not bringing the Brightwing, considering that all of them were so low against a Lucio and Rhaegar that were up top? Almost always going to win out that sustained fight, because you said 2 minutes, 3 minutes. That was a lot of time there.
There was a long duration. I don't know if I would go as far as to use the word greed, but very much a strategic misplay on the side of Tempo Storm, biting off more than they can chew. But talking about biting off more than you can chew, so does Jinwoo up on top. Oh, but the boop saves him.
Very well done there. Trying to put on more pressure towards Sam. Doesn't quite catch him. He will get out there. That being said, Chthonlok has come up towards the top here and might even die off for his troubles. No, they managed to save him at the very end. I'm always surprised about this boombox, by the way. Deadlykittens keep bringing it.
It has been, a go-to talent, actually, not only just within their region. There's been a surprising amount of boombox for me coming out even out of the Korean and Chinese regions. Ultimately, The talent, I'm torn up. I'm not sold yet, but I do love watching that come to life here at the international stage and put up that solid argument.
And it looks so happy. Look at it.
I mean, it's jamming out. It's having a good time.
Yeah.
Not as fast as Lucio, but I mean, he still looks like he's equally as enthusiastic.
He's very enthusiastic. That is true. That's 2 for 0 at the moment in terms of tributes. So Deadlykittens really getting a good position on this, and they've come in confident into this series. They feel like that they can beat Tempo Storm here, and if that happens, Tempo Storm going out in last place in this group could be quite the blow to them moving forwards into 2018.
And very contradicting towards the mentality it seems that they have displayed going into this tournament. Yes, Tempo Storm again is a team that has always felt confident at these international stages, but maybe not performing at the level that we expected of them. But again, this one has been a different one. For some reason, BlizzCon and the HGC finals seems to be like, maybe they have found the true key to overcome the struggles they have had this year, but right now, it is looking like that is not the case.
Kettle at level 4, going for Die Alone, kind of gearing up for the potential of him ended up in like one of those 1v1 situations, or even just on the outskirts of a fight, looking for more damage on that. Kettle does not manage to grab that. He's pushed away by another form of Cattle as ETC is able to just get him out of there for the moment.
And with Brightwing joining in on this, Sonya's going to have a fine time getting the split push up on bottom, meaning Deadlykittens forfeit up the tribute, but again, they are just one tribute away to finding themselves a keep. Nothing to worry about at this point. And I am a bit surprised at the, the lack of, it's not so much lack of action, but the lack of deaths going on. It's been a very strategic, rotational game for both of these teams.
Again, I used the word severity before. I'm going to use it again because that is the situation that both of these teams are in. You want to try and keep your hopes alive to go on to BlizzCon and play on that stage because the amount of fans we have there, it's unparalleled for Heroes of the Storm. It's brilliant.
Still to this day, the most powerful moment I've ever experienced is being on that stage, the ground shaking, and people cheering for not only my success and my failure, but it is without a doubt something that I will never be able to relive, and I wish I could about every single day. That is what these guys are playing for.
So Dread 2018 Pro confirmed. As this Cattle for Stronger, going to be attacks here to begin things. NSJ kind of coming on towards Sam though. He should be able to get away with the Brightwing shift in, and the dash away is safe for now. Very close.
But to burn that Brightwing teleport is the Giant sieging up on top. Perfectly timed for Deadlykittens. Tribute, Curse Point. Perfect positioning for them. Everything here is on the shoulders of Tempo.
Fury going very, very deep there, even popping Avatar quite early to try and keep himself alive in that situation. Here comes Tormented Souls as well. Caterpillar trying to rip apart some of this front line to start things off in it, and Enavia just bouncing back and forwards, not necessarily using his Wrath to get that full engage.
And they immediately turn things around, dropping the mosh pit. We got a Dragon Blade, but it is not looking like it is too effective. Beautiful Emerald Wind hitting all 5 members of Deadlykitten, but when it's all said and done, they are significantly ahead of Tempo Storm, rounding the 13 talents here and a curse.
Tempo Storm's going to be Tormented Souls if they're not careful about this. That was 2 members dying off with the potential for more there, as Deadlykittens were able to turn that situation around with what I consider to be extremely good patience.
Absolutely, and it's paying off as you see in our picture-in-picture, those Giants nearly securing the top forts. Now the boss, a curse, and 13 talents. Your Tempo Storm seems to be crumbling under the pressure of Deadlykittens. They're going to stall out once more, trying to deny this curse.
Not a bad attempt. Sam just trying to get out of position of NSJ there. He's putting some pressure on. Cattle now going to try and put some pressure on against Enavia, but he was cleansed. He's going to be pushing forwards here with that spin to win as well, and he might end up going down.
Psalm not able to get that reset, so Tempo cannot even move in any farther, and I hate to break this to you, Kalaris, but Confidence was channeling the tribute the entirety of that skirmish. That was effectively a 4 versus 5, and Tempo is still struggling to hold their own.
Deadlykittens here really bringing a strong performance to this first game with 3 tributes to 1, and that boss is pushing during a curse, and it's on full health. They're taking their Giants. Also, another nail here in the potential coffin if Tempo Storm isn't able to rectify the situation.
Those top Giants that started out long ago have found themselves all the way to the keep, drawing the Brightwing up to try and rid of that. But now the keep looking to break the base, walking into the keep here for the members of Deadlykittens. They walk in, Tormented Souls drop there for Kato. They're going to dive right on past us to try and force the fight.
They need to do something while that Tormented Souls is up. And now that they haven't got any kills off of that, here comes the Divine Shield as well as that shield from the entirety of Lucio, trying to keep them all alive. They're outlasting all of the damage coming towards them, but they're very clumped up right now.
If they're able to get one reset, but no, the Mosh, they're able to turn this thing around. Deadlykittens busting out the claws, now rounding a 3, almost 4 level lead. 3 members of Tempo dead, and they're on to the core.
There were 2 phases in that fight, and they were not able to get kills during Tormented Souls. They were not able to get kills during Dragon Blade, and that is gonna mean core. Deadlykittens come out with a blistering start here, going up against Tempo Storm.
My goodness, Caleris. Tempo Storm and Deadlykittens. It is just, what a series already. I did not expect Deadlykittens to bring this type of fight up against them, and the fact that they were able to so calculated with so many of the decisions that they were able to make from beginning to end of that. It was just really well done. That was an 11-minute Cursed Hollow.
The everlasting sustain there that we saw from Deadlykittens was extremely powerful against the 2 big moments in those fights. If you can't get kills during those very high impact heroics, when are you gonna get them, Dread?
I mean, I feel like we just saw it. The answer is you, in fact, are not going to be able to pick those up. The Malthael, the Lucio situation, we have been talking about it, and now it feels like the only thing that sits on all of our minds here is the Malthael still the go-to? Is this Tempo Storm sticking to what they know, going to hold up, even when they are 1 game away from being sent home?
And, could be a repeat, situation, unfortunately, for Tempo Storm here. Not really living up to people's hopes in the North American scene, but of course there are still other teams here representing North America. We're going to head over to the analysis desk to see what they think about game number 1.
Deadlykittens are 1 game away now from pulling a Soul Torturers and eliminating Tempo Storm from HGC Finals at BlizzCon. Calder, what'd you think of that game?
I think I have to be careful how I phrase this because...
Trickster, what'd you think of that game?
I mean, I'm
Thanks for the
frustrated.
save.
Honestly, I'm watching this Malthael gameplay, and I'm wondering why there's never an engage. There's never a threat. I mean, Claire's nailed it on the head in the commentary there. Whenever you have this composition where you have to overrun your opponents, you have to engage at some point. You have to go for the steamroller tactics, and that never happened. We saw Cattle drop constantly Tormented Souls and float around the side, kind of like peacocking a little bit, like, I'm a bird, look at me. But if you want to be a bird, pick someone that's a bird. Quit picking Malthael. It's very frustrating to see that they're not actually going for the dive engages when they pick a composition that needs to get on their opponent.
Let's just put this into perspective for a moment. We just saw a non-league team defeat an HGC league team, a major league team, with a 4-level lead and 7-0 kills. That is insane.
Yes.
I want to frame it because I felt there was a few really bad macro decisions on the side of Tempo Storm. It was 12 and about like a sliver away from 13. They decided, all right, we know that they're on boss. Maybe we come down and poke around the tribute. That came back to bite them. And then all of a sudden, you have the push in there. The tribute's going to be there. And Deadlykittens actually played that really, really well in the sense that you could hear them screaming, like, don't cap, get boss, get boss, get boss. They got that. And then Tempo came over, instead of soaking, instead of doing anything, playing a more cautious approach. It's an early enough boss to where, despite the fact that you have a curse against you, it's somewhat salvageable. But the minute you start making the aggressive poke calls because you have the mobility and things like that, and then it turned really hard, going into a choke point, ETC making the plays, it just seems like they were way too confident in what they were doing instead of recognizing the situation, recognizing the enemy team comp, and it just seems like they became like so laser focused. They just had tunnel vision of like, we're fine because of maybe the top tribute. They poked it for like 2 minutes. It was really difficult to watch them on those last few minutes of that game.
Yeah, 3 games in a row, Tempo Storm has fallen behind in the early game. They tried better to at least keep up in the macro game with their globals, but unfortunately for them, it just did not work out again. They lost a very